Paper reports that Hagel said in 2011 he thinks the Pentagon is bloated and that he's in favor of or was of an 80% reduction in U.S. nuclear weapons. But other than that, this is not somebody who's offered a lot of specifics. Is that where the real battle is going to be fought?
Sure. And, as the paper also reports, the president and Congress have ordered $500 billion of cuts from the Pentagon over the next 10 years. And where those cuts come from is going to be part of where they're going to come from is going to be part of the battle between Hagel and those members of Congress to figure out how will the Pentagon be reshaped? How will the Pentagon move forward in a world where the United States is no longer fighting a war on two fronts in two countries, but is still fighting a war with drones and going after terrorist cells around the world that would do us harm. So even though Senator Hagel says that the Pentagon is bloated, yes, it's bloated, but how do you squeeze out that bloat and make the Pentagon more efficient?
And to your point, David Brooks writes in the New York Times, quote, Chuck Hagel has been nominated to supervise the beginning of this generation-long process of defense cutbacks. If a Democratic president is going to slash defense, he probably wants a Republican at the Pentagon to give him political cover. And he probably wants a decorated war hero to boot. David, a lot has been talked about the president's comfort level. There's no doubt that he and Chuck Hagel have a relationship that, among other things, was forged by trips to Afghanistan and Iraq. But bottom line is what David Brooks just argued, the real key here.
It's a good question, and there's so much more to Hagel's nomination, I think, than just what is going on at the Pentagon, although that is a very important point. I think Chuck Hagel reflects in large part the president's thinking on the Middle East, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's such a good fit for the president. And I don't know, given the fact, normally if you have a Republican with a Democratic president, the same vis-a-vis Bob Gates in effect during that first term, that would give the president a lot of cover to do things. But Chuck Hagel has staked out a position to the left of his party on foreign policy and national defense in particular. That's the job he's being hired to do. And so I don't know that the cover actually exists. So that brings it all back to the president, and that is why I think that what Republicans on the Hill will use these confirmation hearings to do is to get at the president's policy vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis Israel. You're going to hear mostly about that. If this was all about budget cuts in the Pentagon, there'd be a lot more policy angst within conservative and foreign policy circles here in Washington, but it would be less of an issue, less of the issue that it is in terms of where most Republicans are today on some of these key issues.
David Drucker, Jonathan Capehart. Gentlemen, great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Meantime, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton went back to work on Monday to a standing ovation after that stomach virus, concussion, and blood clot sidelined her for the past month. The staff welcomed her back with a football helmet to protect her from any further head injuries in the contact sport that is Washington politics. Her spokeswoman admitted she has not tried it on, saying that Clinton's hair looked fabulous. Just ahead, we'll look at Democrats' search for a woman to run for president in 2016. Stay with us.